There are some stories, they feel ancient, right? Like they've been whispered from one generation to the next. Well, today we are diving headfirst into one of those legends. It's this chilling tale of love, betrayal, and a vow so powerful, not even death could break it.
So what happens when a wedding vow becomes an eternal curse? I mean, think about it. You make a promise at the altar, right? But what if that promise twists itself into something dark, something hungry, a curse that just sits and waits for centuries? That's the absolutely terrifying question at the very heart of the story we're getting into.
All right, so let's set the scene. Our story starts in Lucía, this small coastal town in Spain. And that's where we meet our main character, Mateo Guerrero. He's just 19, an architecture student from Madrid, and he's there to study the town's old buildings. He has no idea, absolutely no idea, about the darkness that's just hiding right under the surface of these charming little streets. This town, Lucía, it's got a split personality, for real. During the day, it's like something out of a postcard. You've got these beautiful white-walled houses, narrow little lanes, you can hear the church bells. It's perfect. But the second that sun goes down, everything changes. A weird chill just fills the air, and the streets, they go completely empty. The locals? Yeah, they know to get inside before it gets dark. So Mateo's doing his thing, researching the old church cemetery, when he spots something just bizarre. Right there, next to one of the graves, is this old, broken-down wedding arch. It's decaying, but it still has these dried-up flowers clinging to it. It's like someone had a wedding there ages ago and just left everything. It's a weird detail, for sure, but he kind of just shrugs it off at first. Okay, so this is where things start to get creepy. After some strange stuff starts happening, Mateo casually mentions the arch to the old caretaker at his guest house, and the guy's face just goes white. He knew exactly what Mateo was talking about, and that's when he starts telling this story, a story that's been haunting Lucía for more than 100 years. So get this, way back in 1889, a young woman named Isabella Romero was getting married. The altar was set up right there, in the cemetery of all places. But her groom, a guy named Javier, he never showed up. Turns out he'd run off with another woman. Isabella was just shattered, but she refused to leave. She waited all night long, right there under that wedding arch. By the time the sun came up, she was dead. They said her heart just gave out from grief. But here's the thing, Isabella never really left. The people in town, they're convinced her spirit is tied to that exact spot. They call her the dead bride, a ghost eternally waiting for a groom to finally take Javier's place. And the chilling part? It could be anyone's groom. All right, so let's get back to poor Mateo, because his little research trip is about to turn into a full-on fight for his life. The very same night he laid eyes on that arch, it started. At first, it was just small things, stuff you could almost explain away. So it starts with faint sounds outside his window, and then he catches a glimpse of a woman in a long white dress way down at the end of the street. Then it gets weirder. He feels this sudden, intense cold, and he sees fresh, muddy footprints on the stone path leading straight to the cemetery. Being curious, he actually follows them, and bam, he comes face to face with her right there under the arch. But the real terror, the real horror, kicks in when he realizes she followed him home. And there's this one detail from that first clear sighting that just chilled Mateo to the bone. He saw it. The woman, in the wedding dress. She was floating. Her feet did not touch the ground. This wasn't some tourist playing a prank. This was it. This was the dead bride. Okay, so can you imagine? The spirit appears outside his bedroom window, just staring at him with these horrifying eyes. Mateo is understandably terrified out of his mind. He runs to the only person he can think of for help, the local priest. He spills everything that's happened, and the look on the priest's face, it just confirms every single one of his worst fears. The priest just looks at him, super serious, and asks this one simple but absolutely terrifying question. He goes, "Did you take something from that place?" Talking about the cemetery, of course. And in that 1 second, it all clicks for Mateo. He knows he's made a fatal mistake. He remembers it perfectly. He was just curious about the architecture, the history. So he picked up a couple of the dried, brittle flowers that had fallen off that old arch. He didn't think anything of it.
But what he'd actually done, without knowing, was accept her invitation. Yeah, by taking those flowers, Mateo basically told the spirit, hey, I'm your guy, I'm the groom you've been waiting for. And now, Isabella had come to claim him, and she was never, ever going to let him go. The priest's advice was short and to the point. Leave this town now. Mateo didn't need to be told twice. He bolted from that church, this cold dread just chasing him all the way through those narrow streets. He gets back to his guest house. His hands are shaking so bad he can barely pack, just throwing clothes, books, whatever into his bag. His only thought is escape. Get out of Seleucia. Get out before dark. But it was already too late. He gets to his door, he's fumbling for the key, and then he freezes. Right there on the stone floor are fresh, muddy footprints. Not outside his door, inside. They start right at the doorway and just lead into the shadows of his room. She wasn't following him anymore. No, she was inside, waiting for him. And just then, this huge gust of wind slams the shutters closed and the room is plunged into this dim twilight. Outside, the sky has turned this bruised, sick-looking purple. He tries to ignore it, just frantically stuffing his bag, but then the one little light bulb hanging from the ceiling starts to flicker. On, on, and off. And every time it goes dark, it feels like it lasts forever. And then the storm just breaks. A crack of thunder so loud, it feels like the sky is ripping in half, and the whole house shakes. Rain starts hammering against the windows like 1,000 tiny fists trying to get in. And with one more violent shake, that flickering light bulb finally just gives up, plunging him into total, suffocating darkness. He's just standing there, paralyzed in the dark. All he can hear is his own breathing, and it's deafening. And then, a silent, brilliant flash of lightning illuminates the whole room for one single, horrifying second, and he sees her. She's not at the window. She's not in the hallway. She is standing a few feet away from him, right in the middle of the room. Her tattered wedding dress is this stark white against the darkness, and her sunken eyes are locked right on him. A scream just rips out of Mateo's throat, this raw, final sound of just pure terror. And that scream is what gets the old caretaker running. He throws all his weight against the locked door, bursts into the room just seconds later, and finds nothing. Silence. The window's wide open. The curtains are just whipping in the wind. The room is totally empty. Mateo is gone. They found his body a few hours later, once the storm had passed. He was back in the cemetery, lying right under that old, decaying wedding arch. His clothes were soaked through, and his body was covered in the cold, wet mud from what looked like a freshly disturbed grave. To the people of Seleucia, this wasn't a mystery at all. It was the end of the story. After waiting for over a century, the dead bride had finally claimed her groom. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? I mean, is her spirit finally at peace? Or is she still out there in that quiet little cemetery in Spain, waiting under a decaying wedding arch for the next person to come along and make the exact same mistake?